Hey everyone, and welcome to the next video on Pokemon Productions. And today it's time to step back into the Gladiator arena. But we're going to be taking a little trip back in time for this video. What I mean by that is we're going to be taking a look at the Gladiator series that came before the current series over on BBC. As most of you will be aware, we are currently a week away from the new series of Gladiators, Gladiators Series 3, arriving on BBC. So I thought, to get us all in the mood, I would look back and give my honest thoughts and feelings about the Gladiators series that came before, from 2008 to 2009, the Sky revival of Gladiators. So without further ado, let's get on with this. Contenders, ready! Gladiators, ready! We will start on my first whistle. 3, 2, 1. And for those of you who are wondering which referee I was impersonating there, I will tell you in a minute. So, the Sky revival of Gladiators lasted from 2008 to 2009 for a total of 2 seasons. It was 8 years after the original series came to an end when Sky picked it up for this reboot. And I have to admit, the overall look is entirely different. For one, the tone is a lot more dramatic when talking about it, comparing it to the original series. A lot more dramatic. The theme tune was entirely different. The title sequence, it had a bit of a more dramatic feel to it, and there was all sort of like fiery backdrops going on there. And as for the set itself, it took place in a studio rather than in an arena. And because of that, some changes were made to the format. For example, instead of 5 events being played before the Eliminator, it was 4. It was 4 events being played before the Eliminator. And some events were basically locked in place, like the Hang Tough rings were situated above them all the time, and the pyramid was on the far side. You know, that sort of thing. So yeah, the setup was different, the overall tone was different, and we also had a whole new set of gladiators, which I've actually got a good picture of them here on the cover of the all new Gladiators DVD, which was actually released at the time of Series 1. So I will take you through each and every one of the gladiators we've got here. We've got Tempest, Oblivion, Tornado, Battle Axe, Ice, Atlas, Predator, Enigma, Inferno, Spartan, Panther, and Destroyer. Now that was the lineup that was brought up in Series 1. When Series 2 rolled around, unfortunately Destroyer and Ice actually seemed to have left the show, but they did bring in some new gladiators as well. For the women, they brought in Amazon, Cyclone, and Siren. And for the men, they gave us Goliath, Warrior, and Doom. Now, I have to say, this set of gladiators was quite intense. They were quite tense people. And they often gave a sense of dread that you were going up against them, because some of these guys are absolute tanks. Atlas in particular. Atlas is quite possibly one of the strongest of the male gladiators. He dominates in events like Duel and Hang Tough, but he's also like the gentleman of the group. He's got a nice bright smile, and that's considering we've also got Spartan as well, who is also quite gentlemanly. He's like considered the true gentleman of the gladiators. He does excel in Duel and Hang Tough as well, probably more Duel than Hang Tough. Then we've got people like Oblivion, who is the new bad boy of the group. Or he has a bit of a nickname among the gladiators. He calls himself the Big O. And I have to admit, I'll be honest with you, he kind of reminds me of Legend from the current series. Though if you ask me, Oblivion is a lot worse than Legend. I actually prefer Legend over Oblivion. His mouth is a lot bigger. He's got a much shorter temper, and he just does not take losing well. He is not one to be messed with, in all honesty. We've actually had quite a few villainous gladiators in this series. Key one, Enigma. Enigma is essentially our female villain for this series. The first female villain the UK has had. And of course, nowadays we've got the current Cyclone as our female villain, but Enigma was the first. Very cold-hearted, mysterious, and mean. Kind of like the governess from The Chase, in a way. She actually, one of Enigma's most famous moments from her gladiator career was when she faced Bianca Gascoigne on Hang Tough, and she was actually tickling her under the arms. I'm not sure where that falls in the rules, but it was certainly iconic. And obviously when we're talking about the other villain, Oblivion, he's had a few iconic moments as well. One of them being, he fought original gladiator Wolf in an episode called The Legends Return, in a new game called Earthquake, which I will talk about later on. Basically, the two of them were basically going at each other. They didn't care about the rules at all. They just wanted to go for each other. And eventually, referee John Anderson and presenter Ian Wright had to step in there, and it was absolute chaos going on. So yeah, that was a good moment from the new villain. Another villainous gladiator we had was Tornado, who was kind of like Attitude. He was the gladiator with attitude. He had a big gob, and he was very sure of himself. And Doom as well, who was the straight up villain. He was straight up evil. He even had the evil goatee and everything. And he had the stare. He had that death stare as well. Like that. It's probably where Viper gets his from. And we also had a few well-known glads as well. Like Tempest was actually renowned for being the youngest of this series of gladiators, at only 19 years old. The same age that Hunter was when he started as a gladiator in the 90s. But overall, this set of gladiators is fantastic. And obviously the presenters are pretty good as well. For both series, we had it presented by Ian Wright, who you'll all know as a former footballer, and I think he's a pundit as well. And I think he's also hosted game shows like Moneyball, which was really good. For Series 1, he was joined by Kirsty Gallagher. And for Series 2, he was joined by the late Caroline Flack. And as for the referees, they actually managed to do something brilliant. And they brought back the legend himself, that is the late, great John Anderson. And that was fantastic for the first series. But the second series, they brought in a new referee, and that was the one I was impersonating right at the start. A former boxing referee called John Coyle, who I rather like. I like him. I don't think he's as good as John, but then again, who is as good as John? He was the OG, but John Coyle was still pretty cool. He was still brilliant. And I mentioned earlier that we had the Legends episodes, which brought back different gladiators from the 90s to bring them against the current generation. So we had people like Hunter, Trojan, Cobra, Ace, and of course Wolf, Lightning, Scorpio, Panther, the original Panther, Rocket, and Rebel. Everyone like them. Those three episodes, The Legends Return, The Legends Strike Back, and The Legends Last Stand, all absolutely incredible episodes. The events were also brought back as well. Like, we had the classics like Duel and Hang Tough and Hit and Run, which is basically like Collision from the current series, except the gladiators are swinging wrecking balls at them. The key difference here, most of these events are now played over water. They're played over water, which obviously was a bit of a thing back there, I think. They also brought back stuff like Gauntlet and The Wall. They would also bring back other classics like Pursuit and Suspension Bridge, which is returning in the third series of Gladiators, which is currently on the way. And they brought in two new events, which was Earthquake, where you basically try and force each other off a tilting podium, and Rocket Ball, where you press a button to launch yourself into the air and throw balls into different nets while the gladiators try and stop you. Honestly, I prefer Earthquake over Rocket Ball if we're talking about the new events. And what they did with the other new events, with the other events, I kind of like being played over water was pretty cool. But overall, the Sky reboot, well, let's just say it's an entirely different interpretation of Gladiators. I mean, the Eliminator at the end is completely different as well, beginning with a swim under a wall of flames, then going off a cotton reel, and sometimes we actually get introduced to a floor travelator at the end. And during this first series of this reboot, there was a Gladiators First, where the travelator had to be slowed down, and eventually it had to be stopped altogether to allow some contenders to actually finish the course, which was absolutely insane. But overall, while the Sky reboot of Gladiators is very different to the original series and also very different to the current series on BBC, I still think it's pretty good. It's not, I wouldn't call it my favourite Gladiator series, but it's still absolutely brilliant. They worked with what they had, and I think it paid off in a way. And also some great moments as well with the presenters and the contenders and the Gladiators as well. Like, we actually had a woman called Leanne Lennox, I think, who basically got into a scuffle with Enigma in the quarterfinals. She went before the whistle in Gauntless, and she ended up getting disqualified for it because of her attitude. But overall, it was just a good series. And for those of you who are wondering, this DVD basically covers all the best bits and behind-the-scenes actions from the first series of the revival, including some behind-the-scenes interviews with Spartan, Atlas, Oblivion, Enigma, Panther, and Battleaxe, as well as John Anderson. It's a really good DVD, and I highly recommend picking it up if you guys can find it anywhere. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought of the Sky revival of Gladiators, and also let me know if you're excited for the return of Gladiators on the BBC next week. I certainly am, and I hope you are too. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time.